If you guys were waiting on those 3 penalties, you guys are playing a game anyways, waiting on penalties. You're gonna wait on a ref to decide how the game goes. No, you guys already lost, right? And that last penalty, not on earth, was that a penalty? Nowhere on earth. I told you Mexico wasn't gonna pass. They didn't look good. That's all it was. Ain't no hate. I actually like the Mexican team. I think you guys have some sick ass jerseys. The USA need to get rid of Nike because them jerseys are bull.
Welcome to Hermanos FC, and this is a quick recap of the game yesterday of Mexico, Ecuador. Mexico got eliminated from the Copa America yesterday. Officially, no se pudo. All right, guys, no se pudo. And Juan, I'm gonna play a clip. You called it over a week ago that they weren't gonna get kicked, that they weren't gonna make it
Out of the group. I'm still a firm believer they don't get out of the group. Like I don't think they do.
Yeah, and you were right. Your soccer powers were in full
wants to talk shit and be like, yeah, my team can make it this far. And no, they can't. No, it's like me saying the USA is going to win the World Cup. I'm not delusional.
Yeah, we might
not even make it out of the group, but that's because they themselves. So.
Before I get into the kind of the actual stats of the game, I did watch the highlights yesterday. I don't know if you get it.
Well, yeah, that's another thing. Hold on. Let's just not be like, oh, we watched one half and the other. I didn't watch the other half live. I went back and rewatched it. But it's not anything I'm surprised by. Like, I knew Ecuador was going for the tie, right? They looked it.
Right. They were more than happy to let them, let them get the ball.
Have possession, and all that stuff. Also, Mexico was like, or I've seen a lot on online lately, or this morning. The ref, whatever. If you're playing and you're waiting on the ref to kind of dictate the game, it's because you're frustrated with what you can't even do, period, right? Also, the handball, had it hit his arm first, you can make a case for that, right? You could be like, oh, yeah, but just because the ball hits your hand after like a rebound off his cleat, that's not a handball. I'm sorry.
I mean, let's see.
Mano! Ese es mano. Ese corta la trayectoria.
All right, well.
No. Had it hit his hand first before it goes to the player, yeah, you're totally right. Penalty,
right.
Even. He reaches back, hits off his heel.
Yeah.
Your hands aren't going to be at your side. Like, so it's, a natural position for your hand.
It's not even just been in Copa right now with this hand stuff. It's also right now the Euros, the Denmark thing just happened to go off base. No one's really understanding what a handball is or what it isn't, and when it is and when it isn't. It's really weird. So people just automatically assume. I think for the most part we can assume that there's some very deliberate times where you can stop or it's unnatural, like where you're at. But for stuff like this, it's hard to say like what counts and what doesn't count because
you're acting like he purposely hit it with his heel and knew the trajectory was going to go hit it against his hand. Not every ball that touches your hand is going to get called because it's not. That doesn't make sense by the letter of the law, right?
Yeah.
So no, but again, like nothing came from it, and also you didn't even get that rebound. He still stopped the ball. So what are you complaining about? Like that handball didn't change the trajectory of you not getting the ball. His heel did. That was the first thing that changed it. But I don't know. They're always gonna bitch though. They're always gonna bitch about it though. That's a crazy thing.
Well, that's the thing. It's a lot. These are like last gasps because you're not having a good game. Every little call, every little thing.
I'm only gonna go by like the last call penalty. Right.
That was in the.
It's not a penalty. Like, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, it's not. Like, he hit the ball first, and then what doesn't help is that yes, there's a little touch on the leg because he opens up his leg wide. How does that affect your back spasming out and you fucking rolling? That's like not even a thing. And it was the lightest touch on the ball too.
Well, the thing that saved him, right, was that he cleared the ball.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for him touching the ball first, they probably would have called it.
yeah.
But
The reason why they like it got overturned too was just because of how much he embellished that. If he would have went down, I don't know, holding his leg or something like that, yeah, there's ways you can sell it better, right? I know I don't advocate flopping. I think it's bull, but for this one, you flop and justice is served. You guys got eliminated.
yeah. I did the same thing. I went back and watched it. It seemed to, yeah, like that last minute. What was not called a penalty? It felt like it was like a last gasp. It's like this is the last thing we can do, and it just didn't work out. Like it didn't work
Like
out. It would have been
and
this crazy thing where they would have got the penalty, but
and
like it's
don't
just
get
not
me
how
wrong too. Like I'm not so totally putting it on them. It's been some pretty not great reffing in this tournament. So I can't sit here and be like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of fouls even in the Ecuador Mexico game that I thought were warranted more or cards or to chill out, and he let him go. Right? It wasn't. It was definitely a little bit one sided in my opinion against
one
Mexico.
side. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think that. Yeah, but the fouls of like the PKs and stuff like that, those weren't the fouls that he messed up on the ref.
Yeah, okay. What I saw too from the game, and you like correct me if I'm wrong, but what I saw too is that Mexico had a lot of opportunities and they just can't finish. They were doing a lot of silly things that didn't help their cause, especially for a game this important. They were taking really wild shots. So let me look at the stats real quick before we finish our little recap, just to kind of see the backing, the writing on the wall. Numbers don't lie. We can see here. So it's Mexico had the possession at 59, so almost 60% of the game, while Ecuador had 40. So that right there is already telling you how this game was going. Where when we said in the beginning that Ecuador was cool allowing them to have possession. The thing is that look at the numbers here. There was 4 shots on goal for Mexico, 3 shots for Ecuador. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Now, I didn't see these numbers beforehand, but this is already something that I was talking about, how it felt like they were shooting wildly and there was no kind of like purpose to how they were playing the game. They had 20 shot attempts. Mexico had 20 shot attempts, but only 4 of those went on goal. That's crazy to see that they were just hitting it and praying that it would
Yeah.
somehow, which is crazy. Ecuador had 9. The fouls is interesting too. 16-12. Ecuador had 12. Mexico had 16. So pretty even-handed, I think, a little bit. Not too bad. Mexico did have
Well,
more
no,
yellows.
that's where I'm gonna disagree. Right, that's where I'm saying like the ref missed a lot of calls outside of the box.
You
Not
think Ecuador
penalty.
could have had more fouls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he let a lot more slide towards them. But then again, it's the whole case of like you coming a bitch or you knowing as a team that they complain a lot more. Like these refs, this isn't their first time doing Mexico or Ecuador, so they know kind of how they play, right? You have
the thing is what
against you, I guess.
what's happening is where people are like or are watching this, that these games are a little bit rougher, they're tougher, they're a little more grittier and stuff. So I think people who aren't first time watchers of all these kind of like games, that I feel like these games are a lot of people's first for some reason, that there's a lot that just happens that you're just like, how did that even get passed or what happened there? There's been kicks in the face. There's been things where I don't want to say they get overlooked, but they don't. It happens.
Yeah.
So I can't understand where you feel like maybe your team's not getting the calls going your way, but Mexico dropped the ball in this competition, and it kind of sucks because it just kind of plays along to the word on the street is like, okay, well, they're doing really bad and what's causing
It's not even that, right? The bigger picture of it is that we as the CONCACAF look weaker, right? Because Mexico got out, which they should have got out of the group, being really honest. They should have. But I kind of had a feeling they would have.
Able to.
Right?
Okay, right.
USA should have gotten out of the group. It looks like they're not going to. And for God's sakes, Canada got out of the group, right? And props to Canada, right? They're playing great. No, not really. But I don't know.
What happens now? I didn't see too much online, and this would be like our last thoughts. What would be happening? But I did see a lot of dissent. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are really upset that this happened. But what happens now in Mexico? What happens to these players? What happens to
I
what
think
happens to?
I think it's that whole that happened before with Bruce Arenas, right? Was that if you could only play, not you could only play, but like only Mexican players that play in Mexico
Mm,
play on my
mm-hmm,
squad, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that only makes sense if you're the league with the highest caliber, right? If the Mexican league was a high Premier League, Bundesliga league, that makes sense, right? But there's a reason why when a Real Madrid, a AC Milan, Manchester City come knocking to a young Mexican player, and without a thought, they'll leave, right? Why? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
where the more exposure, the more experience, the more you'll get better over there. They're in
That's
rebuild mode. I like a lot. Here's the thing. I like a lot of these young players on Mexico. I think some of them will leave or need to leave to develop more, and then Mexico will be back to what it was, right?
Yeah, so they had to switch up a couple things to kind of get to that level. I mean, it's kind of yeah, you're right. The Bruce Arenas thing is pretty on point with that, where it's like, okay, well, like the American kids that are playing over there
Or yeah,
probably have better talent
what did
than
Lexi
the
Lala say or something like that? Be like, oh, that wouldn't have happened if you had MLS players. Like, what the are you talking about?
yeah. Well, I mean, look. That being said, it's a shame that Mexico is out because you're like you said, it makes the the league, not the league, but the CONCACAF look weaker. USA has the very important game later today, so I don't know if you and I will be watching that together. But that being said, as a big rival of the United States, it is a shame. I don't know why I feel sad about it. I'm not like a Mexican fan,
Well,
but
no,
I'm
yeah.
just sad about it.
Oh, I'm a Mexican fan. I love Mexico. I love watching Mexico. I mean, not when we play against USA, but like when they're in the World Cup, I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? There's support there. I think they have sick ass uniforms, which USA needs to hop on the ball at that one.
I mean, we'll give them that. We'll give that. Mexico has some of the sickest jerseys right now in the game, in the
Hmm.
national game.
But
Outside of
it's
France, France is
yeah.
number one right now.
I talk a lot of shit, and obviously because they facts number one. But I like Mexico. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, they were robbed. No, they weren't, man. They weren't robbed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's the CONCACAF for you. That's the way the cookie crumbles. That was our quick recap of the games. It's a crying shame, but catch us for the next one where we talk about the rest of the CONCACAF games that are coming up. We're getting to the nitty gritty of it all. We're getting out of the group stages. So please like and subscribe our channel. Watch us for our next video, and we'll see you later, dude.
Later, guys. Bye, everybody. Suck it,